Good morning. This is November 21st, 2021 for the Cyber Phoenix DFAR and Technology Podcast. My name is Jesse, also go by Azul Onyx Online. And today, this is going to be episode 3, and today we'll continue talking about xLEAPP. Following the previous video, this is going to be specifically on the VS Code or Visual Studio's code configuration that I use during development. This information is not specifically need to be used for xLEAPP. You could use it for any part of development, but this particular will be how I set up VS Code to do the xLEAPP development. So, and this is what we're going to be talking about. If you do have any questions, you can ask below. Reach me out on LinkedIn, either at DFAR Phoenix or at Azul Onyx. And there will be a link at the end that will have all of the configuration for it. And I'll make sure I'll link to that in the description below if you're having trouble following on. So let's get into it. Alright, so first thing we need to do, this is the VM, the same VM that I used in the last video to set up VS Code. Now what I normally like to do to set this up is we'll open PowerShell real quick. Now I'm gonna change directory into where I cloned the repository I set up yesterday. And like yesterday, I did the Poetry Shell. Now again, this opens up a virtual environment for your development. This is probably the easiest way to start it. Now, VS Code will remember in some cases the virtual environment, especially if you have like an auto virtual environment configuration set up. However, this is one way to do it if you do not use one of those extensions. After this, you do code period. Close that. So one of the things you want to remember, or you want to check if we're doing too far, is down here where it says Python 3.9. It's got a weird directory here. This is from Poetry. Alright, if you have this one, you need to change it to this one. Alright, this is in the Poetry directory. We'll have all of the Python packages installed here. If you use this one, you won't be able to develop and it will not work properly. So we're going to choose this one. Alright. So after we have that, I'm going to go back and go over the extensions. I'm going to show you how to install some of them, but I'm not going to go to all of them. There were a fair number of them. And then I'll show you some of the configuration files, and then link to the file, that the set of files I have that you can download that already have all this configuration in it. So first, and again, disclaimer: this is not for development purposes. So, but most of what's going to be here is stuff you can use in other application development process. All right, and again, this is a full development video, so just be aware of that. There might be more information or a deep dive into terminology that may not be known. All right, so first, extensions. So there are a lot of them. I've listed them here in like 4 different areas, groups. All the stars are recommended for doing xLEAPP. Any of the crosses are recommended if edited documentation. If you're not planning on doing documentation, you just ignore them. And then there are a few that are optional that just you don't necessarily have to install. And then the ones that are marked in like the orange color are ones that Microsoft's that VS Code tries to install for you. So this is like the Python installer. Make sure you have that installed. If it should install it, but it realizes it's a Python application. Nothing will work if it's not installed. So just be aware of that. So some of these, like, okay, so Jenga right here. So Jenga is what's being used for the reporting. So if you're going to modify or add or change the reporting, you're going to need to use Jenga. Tamal is what the project's based on. It's got a project Python project Tamal. Of course, a code spell checker. Oh, I didn't mark that one. That's probably a required one. I'm horrible at typing and spelling. Get lenses is different. It's an addition to work with Git repositories, and then of course make for the make stuff. Let's see, all the markdown stuff exactly. That's for all the documentation. At some point, all the documentation we moved more into Sphinx and have Sphinx generate the documentation. Right now, I have just a few statics pages to get some of this information out to people wanting to use the application. Poetry, of course, it's optional. You don't really need it if you started it through the command line. It may not be necessarily required if you don't want to install it. PowerShell, of course. The profiler, again, that's optional if you want to try to play with the profiling of it. I don't have anything set up right now at the moment, but I will be playing with that as I get further along into the stuff to set it up. Alright, so next is, of course, Pylance, and then the Python stuff. So the Python doc generator is basically what it says. It generates doc strings for you. Restructured is dealing with documentation. Snooty is for IntelliSense. It may ask you to install it, so you can install it if it asks you. I haven't noticed any difference if you don't install it, but it will bother you if you don't. Table formatter is exactly what it sounds like. You could just put table or generate tables. So Vim is just like the Linux command tool. All the same keystrokes work if you like working in Vim. I kind of prefer using this because you'll accidentally make mistakes. So you can't actually type in an area without actually doing insert or replace or something like that. And then use it as a get merge tool. That would just show up your merge inside of the window. It works really well if you're trying to figure out what you were doing. And the VS Code icons changes your icons in your Explorer view to be actual icons instead of just symbols. So they get more color and they change it so you know more of what's going on for a file or a folder. Some folders have certain types of icons. And so if I go back to the VM, alright, so back here. So like these icons right here are the ones that icon pack. Just makes it a little more easier to understand. And in some folders will have like specifics stuff. These are the defaults, but actually what I'll do is, so if you go to extensions, and up here, it's already have some stuff. This Juniper stuff is already pre-installed. It was installed when I installed VS Code. I'll do the icons first. So here you just click install. Alright, let's go. So it tells me to edit in the JSON file. This is the theme it has, so we're going to keep that theme. I'll go back over here. You're going to notice now all the folders have icons. The plugins has an icon. These look like Python things now. So it adds a better icon so you can notice what files are doing and what they're used for. And every extension is the same way. We'll go back to extensions. Alright, let's have that one. Let's see. Let's do better Jenga. This one. So you're just searching the name and then clicking install, and it installs it. Oh, and I misspelled Jenga apparently. Get lenses. And you'll do this for each one of them. Alright. and that will go back to this here. Get rid of that, and it shows you that they're installed. All right, I'm not going to go through every extension right now, but you get the idea. You just continue doing that until you get them all installed. All right, pretty simple. If you installed any extensions in VS Code, it's pretty self-explanatory. Oops, back to slides. All right, next is settings. These are be a little convoluted. It's written in JSON. I left it mostly in JSON. Talk about some of the settings. We might set some of the stuff. So to get the settings, you gotta go to Manage, which is the gear icon at the bottom of the screen. It's why I keep clicking to go to extensions. You could also hit Control plus comma and open the same settings screen, and you want to make sure you open Set as JSON. So if you come over here, I'm going to do it manually, but you click the Manage icon right here at the bottom. You go to Settings right here. When you have these open, right up here, there'll be Open Set as JSON, which I did it earlier, but you caught that. All right. There are two types of settings. One is User and one is Workstation. This is the user one. If I go back to Settings, you'll notice there's a User workspace. So if I click Workspace, I can also do the same thing, and it will open up my workspace settings. All right. Now, if you notice when I did this one, it actually opened up a created a VS.code folder over here as well. And these are the settings saved within the workspace itself. These are the settings saved within your user profile on the computer you're developing on. All right, it merges the two together and uses a combined set. So which one you modify is up to you. If you have different settings per environment, then set them in the workspace makes sense. If you have settings you want to have on every development application or every time you're developing, set them in the user space. All right, and then we're gonna go back here. All right, so there's a lot of settings here. The workspace icon theme we already set. So the C spell for the spell checker, there's a language setting for which language you want. It defaults to English US. And then you also have so the Python formatter provider. I use black. This is installed when you install through Poetry, so you don't actually install it as an extension. This just tells VS Code which provider to use. Format will save exactly what it is. Every time you save it, it reformats the document using black. And then this, so Flake 8 is a linter. I use Flake Hell, which is a little bit better to set up and works within the Python project toml file. But you enable it here, and then just Flake Hell is the executive name. So you put it here. And then, Flake 8 is lint, of course. Other things, so this is all the Git stuff, auto fetch, render whitespace all. Basically, it renders all of your space in. So if I come over here, and if I pull up a file here, let's see. So you notice there's no white space. Now, I do prefer to have the white space show up. So you can actually, it does auto completion here, so you can just choose which one, choose all. As soon as you save it, all right, so it's saved. As soon as I do that, it now shows me white space. All right. Now you see all the white space, all spaces. All these dots are the spaces. It'll show arrows for tabs. So as soon as you save it, it automatically takes effect. So just be aware of that. So organize, and as I'm going through this, organize imports. So every time you save, it reorganizes the imports. I like to keep it to do that. You can turn it off if you don't like it to reorganize the imports. And then which command you want to skip for get lenses. These are ones that won't prompt you if it's doing those. Okay, for the Jenga HTML templates, editor.wordwrap equals off. So that's, I'll pull up a template here in a second. So, all right. So what that does is allows you to. Let me do that. All right. Let me try that again. So it allows these to wrap all the way, not the wrap, so they're easy to read, because the way HTML kind of works, so it really doesn't like to be wrapped in here. So this is what that does. Alright, so I'm actually using a word wrap column of 90. Alright, the PEP for Python says 88. I'm using 90, nice round number. Although some people also use 120, which I have here. For the rulers and the foreground stuff, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there to show you that. That's actually really neat. So back over here, we're gonna get rid of this. Over here. So, oh, sorry, not 88. I'm thinking of Back to the Future, apparently. 80 is the default. So, change to 90. Then you have these rulers, so we're going to do 90 and 120. And then next is going to be workbench. Color customization. And like that. Alright, so this adds a wrap of 90. This first ruler matches that 90 rule. This is just something I was using to see about 120. Again, some people use anywhere from 90 to 120. Some people use 100, some people use 110, some people use 120. The rule states 88. Save that. And if I go back over to, I'll open Jenga real quick. So in here, all right, you notice you've got this one right here. So let's see. So this is the 91. Now because of my screen, it's so small, I have it blown up so big for the record. You only got to see one. If you had a larger screen, you'll see more than one of these. Oh, right here. So this is 90. This is 120. Alright, other things to be aware of. So restructured, if you're doing that, here's the restructured documentation. Oh, I have the duplicate here. Oops. For make, you want to use make inside of VS Code. If you want to do it, you can set this property here. Although, as you notice, mine's the default, so it needs to be changed. I'm using Google's docstring format, which is listed here, and then it just guesses the docstring types. Alright, so I need to go back and make sure that the right files are updated on GitHub at this location, which will have the GitHub configurations and a git ignore file. So the ignore file is basically what information you don't want to show up. There is one up there. The project also has one. Oh, that's me. Alright, so there's also one here, which ignores a whole bunch of stuff, right? One of the things I ignore is like the plugin folder. I ignore that, right? It also ignores the VS Code folder as well, so it doesn't accidentally get sent to GitHub. Everyone might have different setups. but there's a get ignore file up there. If you copy the files up from the project folder, you will need to, basically what you're going to do is you're going to copy it into this VS Code folder from the project. You can clone it directly to it if you want to, and it'll create several files. That will be the setup that I'll upload here. When you see this video, you should be able to upload those files. If you do have any questions or comments or concerns, again, you can hit me up on Twitter. If there are problems with the GitHub repository or missing settings or anything, you can also post on GitHub as an issue. And then I'll see you in the next one.